Antonio Brown, Lord have mercy. He retired as a Raider. He went there, and then he froze his feet. He caused all this controversy to try to get traded. He badmouthed the coach. He badmouthed the quarterback. He badmouthed the general manager. Never played it down and then got cut. If you just stick to the football field, he's a Steeler legend. That 6-year stretch that he had is literally unmatched. If you had Antonio Brown on your fantasy league team, he led you to fantasy league football victories. Him by himself. Does he deserve to have his number retired? Absolutely not. You can't be bad-mouthing your quarterback like that. He burned every bridge that Pittsburgh has. And there's a whole bunch of bridges in Pittsburgh. But is he still a Steeler legend based on what he did on the field? 100% absolutely.
Welcome to Big B Daily. No frauds allowed.
What is going on? What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Appreciate everybody being here. Welcome back to Big B Daily. This is your man, Brian Hanley. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What is everybody doing this fine Wednesday morning, man? We appreciate everybody being here. Got a lot to cover today. On Wednesday. Some interesting topics this morning. First one, Timberwolves stave off a sweep by the Mavs and play. They actually got a little bit of momentum. And we'll go into exactly why I believe they've got momentum. I'll take a lot of your questions on that too. And then Major League Baseball, basically they have included Negro League Stats, and now some of the Negro League baseball players have overtaken some of the records for Major League Baseball that have stood almost 100 years. So we'll go into some of that. Caitlin Clark, she goes for 30 points last night in a loss. She's starting to get it, people. She's starting to get it a little bit. We'll go over that a little bit as well, and always have the Q&A section at the end. So we appreciate everybody being here today. Thank you for taking the time. One of the things, again, as always, if you guys enjoy what the show is, you guys like the show, enjoy what we're doing, remember, you can always help support the show, but whether it's a super chat, tip, gift, or like, follow, subscribe. You can always try to control the conversation with super chats and gifts and tips, all that kind of stuff. But mainly, again, like, follow, subscribe. We appreciate all of that. Thank you guys for taking the time. Let's get into the show. So first things first is the Timberwolves last night stave off elimination. The Timberwolves win a game. I didn't think they were going to win, but they did something that I didn't think that the Timberwolves, now granted, it could have been out of desperation, but I think it was a great move. Maybe a sly defensive move that went unnoticed. They put Anthony Edwards on Luka. They moved Jalen Daniels over to Kyrie, put some more length on him, put some more athleticism on Luka, and it worked. It worked. The Timberwolves, they played. Luka had a bad game. I know he got a bunch of points, but he shot horrible. It was like 7 for 21. Kyrie wasn't any better. He was 6 for 18, missing several layups. So it was a bad game for the Mavs. Now, the one thing that I will say is that as good as Karl Anthony Towns played, and we'll get to him in a second, if Luka or Kyrie, not both, if one of them has a decent game, the Mavs win. That's the thing. If one of them had a decent game, the Mavs win. But that's kind of how a series goes sometimes. Sometimes you don't have decent games. Karl Anthony Towns, we got to give him some credit. We, just like everybody else, have been all over his head for playing soft, not making any shots, standing around the three-point line, just dancing out there, missing three-pointers. Well, last night, I know he made 4 or 5 threes, and that was a good thing to see. But you know what got him going is that he went inside early. He went inside early. And that's where he got his point. He got going by saying, you know what, this outside shot thing ain't working. I need to drive the basketball. I need to get in the paint. I can't just stand out here and just shoot these threes because they haven't. I got to get something going through the net. Smart basketball player. And then when he finally did, then he went outside and knocked down 4 or 5 threes. Again, he didn't take 8 threes. He didn't take 10 threes. He took 5 and he made 4 of them. You know, good threes within the offense. Wasn't forcing shots. Good for him. Got off the mat because, again, the Timberwolves can't win a game if their 2 best players, and he is one of their 2 best players. If he doesn't show up, they're not going to win. Well, he showed up. Anthony Edwards did his thing. 9 assists in the second half. Anthony Edwards got it going. He almost had a triple-double. Luka had a triple-double, but, you know, Luka, again, bad shooting night. Got a lot of points at the line, which he's going to get points from the line because that's what he does. But bad shooting night by Luka. Anthony Edwards did not have a bad shooting night. Good for him. I like what Minnesota did. And if we're being honest, people, they got a little bit of momentum. You know, they've got something. They're going home off of a win. Now they're still down 3-1. But this is something they can build on. You know, my man Pat Cockrell, he says Wolves in 7. This same thing that my man Ty said yesterday. Winning game 5 at home and losing game 6 in Dallas. I don't know, man. We'll see. If I'm Dallas, I want to end this thing in 5. Don't give the Timberwolves even more momentum by winning game 5. Don't you do that. Bad things happen. I'm just telling you. I will be the first person to say that I was wrong because I thought the Mavs were going to win yesterday. I thought if they got up, but they never really got up. They never really played with a sense of, you know what, we want to close this thing out right now. Dallas never really played like that with desperation. They didn't play like that. And Minnesota did. And they won the game. Good for them. But the main thing is that Kyrie had a bad game. Luka, again, he scored a lot of points, but bad shooting game. 7 for 21 is pathetic. And a triple-double, if you're shooting 7 for 21 and you have a triple-double, I don't want to hear it. Sometimes stats are a little bit empty stats. Those are a little bit empty stats. But Karl Anthony Towns got off the mat and said, you know what? I'm an all-star. I need to start playing like an all-star. I'm one of the better players in this league. I need to start playing like it. But I'm just saying, bad things happen, man. Bad things happen when you allow a team to, I don't know, when you allow a team to stick around and be around. You know, this is a great point. I was just going to get to this, Mo Talk Sports. Great point. Missing Lively allowed the paint to be more accessible for the Wolves. Yeah. Nobody really pointed out how much of a key. Yeah. People in Dallas did. Now, that's what I say. I live here in the DFW. Yeah, people in Dallas knew it was going to be a big thing. And missing Lively. Look, they had to play Kleba out there. Kleba was scared to play. He was scared to play. You could tell. He was hesitant to shoot a three-pointer because his shoulder. Look, he shouldn't even be playing. That's the thing. You know, we talk about Kleba being out there. He literally shouldn't be playing. And when the series is over or when the season is over, he's going to have surgery on his shoulder. That's going to happen. He has the same injury that Julius Randle had. The same thing. The difference is Julius Randle tried to wait his out, never got better. He's going to have surgery. Kleba's going to end up having that same surgery. So he shouldn't be playing, but he was hesitant. You could see loose balls that normally he dives on the ground for, he didn't do. Three-pointers, he was hesitant. Driving to the basket, he was hesitant. He did it a few times. Lively, great point. Lively not being out there is a big deal. It is a big deal. So And yeah, this is a good point by Miller Time. You never really felt like Dallas was going to win. No, you didn't. Not last night. They didn't play with the urgency. They didn't play with that same urgency that you had seen in previous games. They didn't do that. Where you did see, on the other hand, Minnesota did. Minnesota did the same thing. So I like what Minnesota did. I like the fight. I like, again, that subtle change. Putting Anthony Edwards on Luka. And look, Luka was 5 for 15 with Anthony Edwards guarding him. So that little subtle change, putting some more length and athleticism on Kyrie. I like that too. Now, you could just chalk it up to bad shooting nights, and that happens. You could chalk, or you can give Minnesota credit. I choose to give Minnesota some credit. Now, they come out the next game and Dallas shoots the lights out, then what are we talking about? It won't even matter. But I think Minnesota's got to come. They'll have the home crowd behind them. And if I'm not mistaken, Minnesota, I mean, in the 2 games, they've been up double digits at home. Game 5 could get away from Dallas early. It could get away from them early. Now, we've seen it get away from them early and Dallas find a way back. Game 2, Minnesota was cruising up 18 with about 2.5 minutes to go in the half. Dallas was able to cut the lead, and then they were back in the ball game. So we'll see what happens in Game 5. Don't be surprised if Minnesota blows out Dallas in Game 5. Don't be surprised if you see that. I'm not predicting it. I'm just telling you, don't be surprised if you see that happen. I will not be surprised if Minnesota smacks them around. So I think Lively actually turned into a pro from the start of the season more than most rookies. Yeah, Derek Lively has changed. He has definitely changed. First of all, Lively, and we're talking about Derek Lively from Dallas. You talk about a rough season. You're a rookie. You're going through what rookies have to go through, understanding how to play. You play so many more games in a season, travel, just understanding how to be a pro. Then when you probably finally have a handle on being a pro and understanding, okay, you know what? I've been through the majority of this season. I get it. Boom. His mom dies. Now, his mom had cancer, so it wasn't unexpectedly, but does that matter? I mean, does it matter? Your mom died. I don't care if it was unexpectedly or not. She dies. And he's having to figure all that out, man. More power to the guy. And he's a young guy. Now, granted, again, it doesn't matter if your mom dies if you're 60 or if you're 12. Your mom dying is your mom dying. But he's a young guy. I think he's 19 years old, having to figure that out in a rookie year. They've talked about it a lot here in the DFW area about how the team rallied around him and helped him, which you love to see. That's how you know this team is together. But good for him. He's become a pro. And yes, Dallas missed him incredibly last night. They absolutely missed him. He needed to be, if he was out there, it may have been a different outcome because they were getting just straight line drives to the basket that they wouldn't have gotten if Lively's out there. And I think he'd have been more active on the offensive boards too. So, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Game 5's a big one. I mean, they're all big, but don't be surprised if Minnesota just doesn't blow the doors off of Dallas, which is tricky. If you're Dallas, you don't want to see that happen because then you're giving all the momentum back to Minnesota. And if we're being honest, Minnesota's a better team. Like from top to bottom, they're a better team. I think Minnesota's 2 players aren't as good. Like Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns might take a backseat to Luka and Kyrie. Maybe. It's close. But overall, Minnesota's got a better team. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I thought it was an opportunity for Dallas that they let get away last night. I thought they let that get away. Let's move on, people. Let's move on. So Major League Baseball, the Negro Leagues, have come to, or basically Major League Baseball has included the Negro Leagues in the statistics. They've incorporated them into the statistics of into the history of Major League Baseball. Now, on face value, you think, oh, that's a good thing. Negro League players, they were kept out for racist reasons, 100% racist reasons. Anybody that's trying to argue that is a bold-faced idiot. Either you're an idiot, you're lying, or you're a racist yourself. Okay? That they kept them out because of their color. That's it. Now, but does that mean that Major League Baseball needs to include their records in Major League Baseball? I'm under the understanding of no. Look, a lot of these guys are in the Hall of Fame, and they should be in the Hall of Fame because, again, they kept them out, but they still didn't play in the Major League Baseball. You know, they didn't play. And I understand the reasoning. It's horrific reasoning, to say the least. But they just didn't. So what do you do? Like, where's your stand? To me, I think it's a stretch. I love the fact that they're including them. Don't get me wrong, but I still think it's a stretch. For instance, the on-base percentage record of Barry Bonds is one of the most incredible things that I think I've seen in my entire life watching baseball. The guy was on base literally all the time. We watched that with our own eyes. We saw it. So it's not something that we didn't see. We saw that happen with Barry Bonds. Now you can say Barry Bonds cheated and okay, fine. But so was 70% of the league was cheating at the time too. So let's move past that. But we watched that record. Now he's fifth. I think it was like an 885 on base percentage, and now he's fifth. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. What, fifth? Because guys from the Negro Leagues, they had better on base percentage. They passed them. Now, yeah, I'm not going to say that there weren't good pitchers in Negro Leagues, because there were Don Larson, Satchel Paige, Larry Doe. I mean, there were good players and good pitchers. I get all of that stuff, but it wasn't major league pitching. Everybody from the Negro Leagues wasn't major league caliber. Everybody wasn't. Look, you can be honest and say that. There's nothing wrong with saying that. You know, it's just like in any league. Everybody isn't major. Hell, there's guys in the major leagues now that probably shouldn't be there, but they are. So everybody wasn't major league material, and they weren't facing all the best pitching. I don't know. So Josh Gibson, look, was an incredible baseball player. They said he hit almost 800 home runs. And you can't deny that talent. But I'm just not sure. I am sure. I don't think you should incorporate his record into Major League Baseball. Look, I get it. MLB is trying to eradicate racism that they had for, 80 years. I get they're trying to do their best to clean that up. But there's certain things that you don't have to do in order to do that. Now, I will say this, any record of Ty Cobb's, the racist Ty Cobb, that gets eradicated, I'm for. I'm okay with. But at the same time, like I said, I love the sentiment. I just don't like it. I don't have to like it. I love the reasoning why they did it, but I don't have to like it. So, yeah. Yeah, too late. They put the cart before. I just don't get it, man. I don't know. That's just me, though. That's just me. I'm not under the impression that Major League Baseball had to do this. First of all, was there a lot of people calling for this? And when I mean a lot, I mean Did you even hear any public outcry for this? Because I don't think you did. Matter of fact, I'm positive you didn't. Most people, like myself, didn't even know that this was a thing. And then all of a sudden it pops up and you're like, oh. And then you start thinking, you're like, oh, well, they took away this record, this record, this record. Well, why did they do that? So I don't know. Like I said, it's tough, especially being a black man myself. And it's almost like, well, Brian, you're going against black. Well, no, I'm not. I'm just going with logic and just saying, look, they didn't play in the major leagues. So why are we saying that they did when we know for absolute fact they didn't? We know why they didn't. Don't get me wrong. We know why. We know it was pure racism on why they didn't play in the Major League Baseball. For the majority of them, the ones that could, we know why they didn't. But they still didn't. And I just don't think that you should take away records of guys that actually did. That's all. Because here's my thinking, and y'all have heard me say this before, is like people say that Babe Ruth is the greatest baseball player ever. I say he's not. I always say it's either Barry Bonds or Willie Mays. Why? Because Babe Ruth didn't play against all the best baseball players out there. Hence the Negro Leagues. So if I'm going to take that stance and say that Babe Ruth can't be the best because he didn't face the best, then how can I then be a hypocrite and go back and say, well, you got to incorporate the Negro League records, even though they didn't play against the best players? I'm not going to be a hypocrite. If there's one thing y'all know about me, I will never be hypocritical. If I'm nothing else, I'm going to tell you the truth, whether I'm right or wrong. It is what it is. And I just don't think that you can be hypocritical in this sense and then come back and do that. That's my point. So that's all I'm saying. And they didn't, and that's why when it comes to the records, I don't think you can eradicate records. But I still believe you don't say, like, I'm never going to say that Ty Cobb was the greatest hitter of all time. I'm never going to say that, even though his records may say that. Didn't face all the best players at the time. Didn't do it. And there was a reason why. Babe Ruth, best baseball player ever. Nope. Didn't face against the best players. Why? We know why. So I'm never going to say that. So my man K-Ned says American League and National League wasn't facing best pitching either because they kept some of the best out. I agree. Back in those days, I agree. That's why I don't say it. So I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me just pin this question to you all. Let me put some pressure back on you guys. What do you guys think? And look, I'm going to say this right now, just so we're clear. If you have the stance that says you don't think that the Negro League records should be a part of Major League Baseball, you are not going to hear from me, if you happen to be white, if I even know that, number one, that you're a racist. So I want to make sure we're clear on that. Unless you say something racist, I'm not going to call you that. So let's just get that out of the way, because that gets in the way a lot of times when it doesn't have to. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think they should? Because, like I said, I don't think they should. It sucks because of the reasoning behind all of it. It absolutely sucks. But whether it sucks or not doesn't change the facts. And the facts are they didn't play in the major leagues. So you can't have a major league record. It was pointed out to me again before the show. We were talking about how Caitlin Clark is known as the NCAA record holder in basketball as far as career points, but somebody else actually owns that record. They scored more points. They just didn't play in the NCAA, played a different division. The difference with that is nobody was holding that woman out. She just didn't play at a school that would qualify her. Now, for whatever reason, but she didn't. She wasn't being held out because of the color of her skin that we know of. Where Negro League Baseball players 100% were not part of Major League Baseball because of the color of their skin and nothing else. Had nothing to do with ability. Heck, they used to play all-star games all the time, and Negro League teams won all the time. I'm not saying they won every game or anything like that, but they won just as many as the Major League Baseball players did. That's one of the reasons why they got put into Major League Baseball. People were like, hey, man, these people are good. They can help. Statement by Darren Howard. If you're not in Major League Baseball, how can you hold Major League Baseball records? Pretty straightforward to me. I understand. I'm right there with it. It's just, if you didn't play, regardless of the reason, why do you have a record? I think it's pretty much straightforward. A lot of people will point to Satchel Paige, who came over to Major League Baseball as an old man. Sure did. Started when he was 42 years old. Word on the street is that it wasn't until he was actually 45 years old when he started pitching in the major leagues. But we'll just go with 42. 42 years old, and he still dominated. Yes, he did. But I still say it's weird to see a name I don't know as the all-time average leader. I mean, I know the name Josh Gibson, and maybe a lot of people don't. I know Josh Gibson. And they say he was the greatest hitter in the Negro League history, and clearly he was. Every hitting record that they have, he owns it. But he didn't play. And the word on the street also is that when Jackie Robinson became, the first player to break the color line, I don't even think this is up for debate. He wasn't the best player. There were several players that were better than him. He just happened to be the right guy to break the color barrier. But he wasn't. Josh Gibson was the best player. Satchel Paige was next. They were the best players. But they couldn't use them per se because of their personalities. Jackie Robinson was the right guy at the right time. And they say that's why Josh Gibson died early, is because he died of a broken heart, because he never got to play in the major leagues. He never got that opportunity. So, which sucks. K-Ned says, if you're counting pre-integrated records, then yes, Negro League was equivalent to better competition from the separate two leagues. If not counting pre-integration records, then no. They're two separate leagues. So, and like I said, integration is one thing, I agree, but they're just two separate leagues. So I've moved past that. I get what you're saying, but it's just, if they're two separate leagues, keep them separate. There's nothing wrong with that, too. I think some people get stuck that there's something wrong. I don't think there's something wrong. So, I don't know. I don't think they should, because they weren't playing the same competition teams. Yeah, it would be like including CFL stats in the NFL, i.e. Warren Moon. That is the perfect example, Mo Talk Sports. They don't include Warren Moon's. They just include what he did in the NFL and keep those. Yeah, exactly. What he did in the NFL, not the Canadian League. That exactly is my point. Not to mention, nobody, and not to my knowledge, from the Canadian Football League is even in. Now, the difference is, here's the big difference, though. They're not keeping Canadian football players from playing in the National Football League. They just weren't good enough. That's where the pushback comes. And it's legit pushback. Canadian football players just aren't good enough to play in the NFL. Because if they were, they would be. That's the difference. Negro League players were absolutely, I'm not saying every one of them, but a lot of them were absolutely. Roy Campanella, the list goes on and on and on, that were actually able to play in the Major League Baseball but didn't, and were kept out. So I think it's a good conversation. I think it's a good topic. I think it's something that needs to be talked about a little bit more. But yeah, I like it. I like the premise. I don't necessarily like that they're putting them in the record books and eradicating some Major League Baseball records. That's all. You know, they always say baseball records are the most sacred records because the numbers mean everything. Well, if the numbers mean everything, then they got to mean everything with people that actually played in the league. But again, it's a slippery slope because why? But we know why. But it literally, it doesn't matter when we're talking about it. They didn't play. They didn't play, you know. And the old saying, life ain't fair. No, it's not. I mean, think about this. Nobody cared. They put Josh Gibson in the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it, but Josh Gibson never played in Major League Baseball. He was better than Jackie Robinson, but he wasn't the right guy for the Major League Baseball teams to put him in, to allow him to play. So he never got to play. Just think about that for a second. You're being kept out of a league because you're black. No other reason. You're black. And then when they actually put a black guy in, you're clearly the best player. No, sorry, you're not the right kind of black. We don't need you. We need somebody else that's going to toe the line. And as much as Jackie Robinson wanted to fight back, he wouldn't. Josh Gibson might have. They didn't want to use that. And boom, here we are. Josh Gibson ends up dying a few years later of a broken heart, technically a stroke. Life ain't fair, man. Life ain't fair. Never has been, and it never will be. So I appreciate y'all indulging me on that. I thought it was good to bring up. And that came out yesterday. I said, this is going right on the show. We're talking about this. So let's move on. Again, as always, people, remember, Big B Daily, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time. I appreciate you all being here. Remember, if you want to drive the conversation, remember exactly how you can do that. Click on any super chat. Your question goes up immediately, right to the top. So I appreciate you guys doing that. Thank you. Let me get this other set up here. Either way, I appreciate you guys doing that, man. Thank you very, very much. Let's move on. So Caitlin Clark, 30 points last night. Now, 13 for 15 from the line, 13 for 15, free throws. Okay. 7 of 17. Didn't have a great shooting night, but she got 30 points. She's starting to get it a little bit. Now, some people are going to say, well, it was empty stats because they lost. Well, her team's not any good, man. If you just I'm not even saying go watch a whole WNBA game. I'm not saying that. But if you want to see why their team keeps losing, go watch a half. Go watch a half of their game. You will see the Indiana Fever have a terrible coach. That's number one. And outside of Caitlin Clark and Alea Boston, they don't have very good players. I mean, there's a reason for the last 2 years they've gotten the number one pick in the draft. People always, they got the number one pick this year. They weren't any good. Yeah, they had it last year too. They're not any good. They aren't. And they're going to have the number one pick next year because they're not any good. They need better players. That's what they need. They need better players. So, yeah, the Fever are just terrible. So, 30 points. She's starting to get it a little bit, starting to figure some stuff out, understanding that people are coming after her. That's to be expected. It happens with all rookies at every level. Guys come after you. They challenge you. Now you got to stand up. She's got knocked on her butt a couple of times. Okay. She also got back up and fought. Good for her. So, and everybody that was out there screaming that Caitlin Clark, she's the GOAT. She's the greatest women's basketball player ever. I'm like, Oh my God. Will you please shut up? And again, you can think that she wasn't the greatest. I don't even think she was the greatest college basketball player ever. And I think I'm right, but okay, that's still an opinion. But even at that, that doesn't mean she's not great. And while she isn't great right now, that doesn't mean she's not great. Now, the WNBA All-Star team is going to come up here soon. They're going to end up picking that. Caitlin Clark has earned a spot on that All-Star team. There's going to be so many people out there that say, no, she hasn't. No, yeah, she has. First of all, it's voted on by the fans. How many times have we seen men All-Stars that don't deserve to be a starter? We've seen that plenty of times. So if the game is for the fans, let the fans decide. So stop it. But she did her thing. You know, they just don't have a good team. 30 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals. That's a pretty good night, people. That's a pretty good night. I don't care if she made 13 free throws or not. That's a pretty good night. So, but we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Mo Talk Sports, I love this comment. Once Boston and Clark learn how to play with each other, or the coach puts them in better positions, they'll win more. Paige Beckers and Clark, yeah, going to be crazy next year on the same team. Absolutely. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. Paige Beckers is going to be the number 1 pick, and she's going to be on that Indiana Fever team next year. Her, Clark, and Boston on the same team. Look out, people. Look out. So, look out. But yeah, Indiana's got to get a better coach. They got to fire the coach. I'm sorry. They got to get a better coach. Get somebody in there. I mean, hell, the coach, the first 3 games wouldn't even let Caitlin Clark be the point guard. I'm like, why is she standing over in the corner by herself? Let her make the decisions. Yeah, she's going to turn the ball over some, but she's better than what you have. What are you doing? Stop being stupid. Let the girl cook. And again, I am not in the camp of Caitlin Clark is the greatest basketball player ever. I am not in that camp. Until she proves it, I'm never going to be in that camp. But that doesn't mean she can't play. That doesn't mean she's not great. And she's starting to figure it out a little bit. Like I said, 30 points is 30 points. I don't care how you get it. Good for her. Good for her. So, and you're right. Once her and Boston learn to play together, and hopefully the coach understands a little bit on how to coach, they'll win a little bit. The other players got to stop being jealous too. We've seen it. We've seen the TikToks. We've seen the memes. We've seen it. Other players on her own team, for some reason, are mad or jealous. It is what it is. But that happens with rookies from time to time. That happens with rookies from time to time that guys on their team. Hell, y'all remember all that stuff with LeBron? You had teammates coming out saying that, well, you know, an 18-year-old, I don't see how they can help us. Hell, the guy that actually said that, Darius Miles, he came from high school to the NBA. But somehow LeBron wasn't going to be able to help him. Carlos Boozer said there's other guys on their team at his position that are better than him. I mean, that was an out-and-out lie. Just jealousy for no reason. For no reason. It's like you're mad that I'm getting attention because I'm good at playing basketball. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Should I play worse to make you guys feel better? No. So she's going through that. She's going through that. Rookies go through that. It's okay. It's okay. She'll be fine. She will be fine. So good for her. Good for her. Again, big game last night, 30 points, starting to get it a little bit. Now they just got to start winning a little bit more. They got to start winning a little bit more because what I'm afraid is going to happen, and I said this before the season, if they come out, all these people start coming out to the games and the Fever continue to lose, people are going to be like, well, I don't want to come out and watch her lose. We enjoyed it because of how she was playing and she was winning. So hopefully fan support will stay up and they will understand, hey, man, look, yeah, we're losing, but we're not a very good team right now. Continue to support, continue to watch. We'll be better next year. So hopefully all that happens. What's going on? I appreciate y'all joining, man. I appreciate you guys joining. So let's move on to Q&A section. What are you guys thinking? What questions you got? What statements? Anything sports related or anything really. Let me know what you got. My man Ben, he says a lot of the narrative that Clark is mistreated does stem from the newer fans to the sport who may not have seen anything like this before. Yeah, I don't even think it's to the sport. I think a lot of those people don't understand how professionals treat rookies. It's like rookies get mistreated. And I'm not talking about abused, although she's taking some hard fouls, but so is Angel Reese. I mean, that's part of it, man. Veterans are going to test you. That's what they're going to do. They're going to test you. Because here's the thing. You're trying to take their money, their job. They don't want to give up that job. They're not going to just give it up without a fight. Do you blame them? Because would you give yours up without a fight? Of course not. Well, neither do they. And they want their shine too. And they understand these rookies are coming into the league with all this shine, all this talk. And they don't like it because they've been in the WNBA for years and they haven't gotten the same type of shine. Well, that happens. Again, we talked earlier about life ain't fair. So now that you are getting the shine, just take advantage of it. Just take advantage of it. So good for them, man. Good for them. Keegan, what is going on, man? I have missed you. I am glad you found your way back to the show, man. I appreciate you. Do you think the Miami Hurricanes will be ranked? Because a lot of early rankings have Miami ranked 20. Yes. Miami had a good recruiting class the last few years. They got a crazy transfer class. Cam Ward is a very, very good quarterback. Yes, Miami will be ranked. But also, yes, Miami will lose 5 games. Why? Because they have one of the worst coaches in Division I college football. Mario Cristobal is one of the worst football coaches in sports. Let's just say that. One of the worst. Outstanding recruiter. Might be a top 5 recruiter. But he's also a top 5, one of the worst in the bottom 5, I should say, as far as in-game coach. He's a terrible coach. Terrible. But yeah, Miami will be ranked high. And then they're going to lose a game that they're not supposed to lose early. And then here comes just the downfall. And just, Lord have mercy. We see it every year. We see it every year. So, what else do we got? Pat, NJ kept driving into inefficient high point totals and losing. Tex Winter had to show him we're losing when you score 40 and involve no one. Yeah. Part of that was Doug Collins. Doug Collins was like, you just give it to Michael and let him do his thing. Everybody else get out of the way. And I'm like, you can't win like that, man. What if his shots aren't falling one night? And even then, okay, he scores 35 points, 37 points, and he shoots 50%. Well, if the rest of the guys aren't touching the ball, you're not going to win. And they didn't. It was Tex Winter and Phil Jackson. Tex Winter doesn't get enough credit, but he put in the triangle offense. It was his offense. And Phil Jackson had him as an assistant and understood that the offense would work because you can think what you want about Phil Jackson. When it comes to coaching basketball, the guy's a genius. He gets it. And MJ became outstanding, and so did the team. So, what's up with Justin Fields? That was just a clickbait rumor that was out there from an idiot Steelers website, man. Justin Fields is not going to be returning kicks at all. Not one, ever. He won't do it one time in his life. Let's just do that. That's never going to happen. Never going to happen. My man, Pat Cockrell, I love his spirit. Texas Tech will go 9-3 on the season with a possible shot at the Big 12 title It's not out of the question. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're more of an 8-4, 7-5 team, but 9-3 is not out of the question. It is not out of the question. They've been recruiting their ass off down there in Lubbock. Joey McGuire's got something going. If you're a Big 12 fan, number one, make sure you watch Big B Sports Talk, or not Big B Sports Talk, but Big 12 Insiders on YouTube. Make sure you go to that. Check that out. Make sure you go there and subscribe. I have a show 1 p.m. Tuesday through Friday, 1 p.m. Central Time on YouTube. Make sure you check it out. Shameless plug. Also, as a shameless plug, later today, Steelers Almighty. Again, if you're not a Steelers fan, I totally understand. But if you want to have good, outstanding content in a podcast, make sure you go and check out Steelers Almighty. It's on YouTube. It's anywhere that you can get social media. Go subscribe to Steelers Almighty for good content. It's also anywhere that you get a podcast. Steelers Almighty is out there. So I appreciate anybody that goes and signs up for that. New episode coming out tonight, 8 p.m. Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for it. Again, anywhere that's social media, anywhere that you get a podcast, and on YouTube. Steelers Almighty. We're just getting started with that, too. Just getting started with that. Haven't even been around 60 days yet. Haven't been doing it 60 days yet. So I appreciate anything there. Any support. Let's see. If I was to pick one college football game to go to this season, what would you suggest? Ooh. I haven't really dived into any schedules, but I'm going to leave the SEC alone for now. And I may go to a Big Ten game, and not Michigan, Ohio State, but one of the new ones. I think Michigan and USC play. I think I would want to see that. And not to me that it's necessarily going to be such a good game, because I don't know. But for me, I'm a nostalgic type of guy, and I want to see USC play Michigan in a regular season football game that's not the Rose Bowl. That's what I would do. I'm partial to Big 12. So, and I know they're leaving the Big 12. And I just said, hey, we're going to leave the SEC alone. But if you've never been to a Texas-Oklahoma game in the Cotton Bowl, you have to go. You have to go. If you're a college football fan and you haven't, and you don't have to root for those teams. I'm not saying that. But if you just want, I want to go see a college football game. Oklahoma and Texas in the Cotton Bowl, where literally half the stadium are OU fans, the other half are Texas fans, 95,000 people in the middle of the Texas State Fair, I might add. That day when the football game is going on, and when that football game lets out into the fair, there's like 350,000 people at one time right there. That would be something that you have to expect. So that would be the thing that you would have to endure. That's a good question, though, Ben. It's a great question. I cannot wait for college football to get started. I can't wait for football in general to get started. Cannot wait. Like I said, we're talking about the NBA, and I don't mind, and I love the NBA, but I got NBA basketball fatigue, man. Jesus, it's been going on since October. It's just too long. See, for me, it's too long. It's too long. I'm over it. I like the games. I love the games, actually, but too long. Too long. My man Julius says Michigan and Ohio State is lit. It is. I've never been, but it is. But I have been to Texas OU, and that's nuts. That is nuts. So, let's see. What do we got here? Good lineup for tonight on Steelers. My man Steelers Almighty. Yeah, we got a good lineup tonight. We got a great lineup tonight, man. So, what do we got on Steelers Almighty? Let me give people a little taste of what we're talking about. We're talking about OTAs, talking about Patrick Queen, how he changes things, the Steelers' new offensive line. And then is Juju going to come back? We're going to talk about all that and more tonight on Steelers Almighty, man. So, like I said, anywhere that you guys get a podcast, make sure you check it out if you're into podcasts. We're on all social media platforms. Make sure you go and follow and like and subscribe to all that. And then, obviously, on YouTube. Make sure you go to YouTube and subscribe to Steelers Almighty. So, would you rather see the Mavs Celtics series or Wolves Celtics? Well, storylines are going to be more intriguing if it's the Mavs and the Celtics, just for the Kyrie factor. The storyline would be more intriguing. So, but I think the better matchup would be the Timberwolves and the Celtics. But at this point, with the Celtics having all this rest, if the Timberwolves happen to come back from 3-0, which I don't think they will, but if they do, and they come back and win the series, they're going to be dead tired, and the Celtics are going to blow them out the first two games just because Minnesota will be tired. So there's that. There is that. Let's see here. My man Ruben, how about them Mets? Ruben, don't start with me, man. Don't start with me. I was having a good day, and now you're going to bring up the Mets. The Mets are so bad, I won't even wear a Mets t-shirt. Before, I didn't mind. I don't care. My team can suck. I'll wear my shirt anywhere. I'm not wearing a Mets shirt. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Just a terrible, terrible team. Oh, my God. It's so embarrassing. So embarrassing. But you love who you love, man. You love who you love. Lord. Louisville have at least one loss. Okay. I'm thinking Louisville's probably going to have a couple of losses. So, not sure what that meant, Keegan, other than, I don't know. We'll just leave it at that. I would listen to a whole segment on that College Stadium topic. Yeah, buddy. College stadiums, the best college stadiums. That might come into play on Big B while we're going into football season during the summer. A top 5 or a top 10 college football stadiums of all time. I may put that on the list. Matter of fact, that needs to get put on the list of one of our top 10 lists that we do. Top 10 college football stadiums of all time. Yeah. We're going to get that one on the list. So, hot take by my man Pat Cockrell. Utah Utes get humbled in the Big 12, predicting an 8-4, 7-5 record. Utah's going to be a good team. I just think they're underestimating how good the Big 12 can be. That's all. I think they underestimate going to places like Stillwater. Now, granted, they don't have to play Kansas or Kansas State this year, so their schedule is actually fairly easy. So, but I think they're underestimating traveling to some of these towns that they're going to have to travel to play college football games. But let's make no mistake, Utah's going to be a very good football team because they have a very good football program. So, Miami will beat Louisville? No, they won't. Just like, I remember you, Keegan, that's right. You said Miami was going to blow Louisville out last year. How'd that go? Didn't go well, did it? And it ain't going to go well this year. But your fandom is showing. Your Miami fandom is showing, Keegan. I get it, though. I'm right there with you, man. You're right. I'm right there with you. But Miami's not beating Louisville. You know that, too. That's the thing about it. You know that. But that's okay. We love who we love, man. We love who we love. So, all right, man. We're going to shut this one down for today, people. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you, guys. Again, good Wednesday. Appreciate everybody showing up. Appreciate you all showing up. So, we'll be back again tomorrow. Like I said, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central Time. I appreciate everybody being in here, man. Thank you, guys, and aloha.